Hello everyone and welcome to BunkaMania, here on Bunkerzilla UK's Twitch channel live at twitch.tv/Bunkerzilla UK. I am Jeremy Graves and I am ready and waiting to talk lots and lots of wrestling today, more specifically focused on the world of All Elite Wrestling. But, as per usual, I am not alone. He is Jungle Boy. If I'm Luchasaurus, it is the Dekker Dane, also known as Mr. Iain Boulton. Good sir, how the devil are you doing today?
I am doing lovely, lovely, seamless introduction. Beautiful. And in a new little cozy room. For our audio podcast listeners, my usual background of lots of DVDs, Blu-rays, games, all that, has now been replaced by a very cozy background of just like a nice sort of beige wall and a door. And a jacket. Don't worry, I will try and spruce this up for future episodes, but we'll start simple. We'll start simple and clean.
But Dekker-san, is it the forbidden door?
Well, it opens towards me. So it's like it's like I'm forbidden to leave, but it's okay for people to come in. That's a weird way of how the forbidden door works in the world of wrestling now, isn't it?
You know what else sometimes is really weird in how it works, mate? It is the fact that Twitch is a live platform, and if you are joining us live, we really, really appreciate that. And if you feel so inclined, why not give us a follow? Or if you really want to, you can also subscribe so that you can also be aware of other great content here on Bunkerzilla UK, including our monthly Quiz Smash game show, which is on the last Friday of the month, and there is so much more as well. So any support you can give us is very much appreciated. If you are watching the replay of the show on YouTube and you are enjoying BunkaMania today, please hit that thumbs up button, and also, once again, if you feel so inclined, give us a subscribe. Also, shout out to our audio podcast listeners, because we know you're out there and we want to give you some love as well, because we know you really enjoy the show. If you aren't already, why not hit that subscribe button on the various platforms that you can find BunkaMania on, be it the likes of Spotify, Amazon, Google, you name it, it is more than likely there. If not, I'm sure Mr. Dekker-san can sort that out in due course.
Of course. Indeedy do.
So Iain, we are here today to talk a lot about the world of AEW. We've got lots and lots to get into, and speaking of us having lots to get into, if you are joining us live on Twitch tonight, make sure you leave some comments in there, because we'll be reading some out as we go along during the show as appropriate. And once again, thank you for joining us live.
Yes, and as also to our Twitch viewers, do let us know if there's any issues with audio and video. We obviously want to make sure your experience is at its most optimal level, because we want that 5-star rating. But we're not in the Tokyo Dome, so that might be a problem.
I mean, to be fair, the Tokyo Dome stuff in general has been a bit of a mixed bag.
Oh, okay, so not 5
Tokyo
stars
Domes.
then. Not 5 stars then.
I mean, look. I mean, as long as you're not how Kenta is probably currently feeling, then you're fine.
Okay.
So, I'm going to add some continuity to this now. Do you remember how at the end of the last week's show, when, we had lots of breaking news going on, but I mentioned the story about Kenta v Hiroshi Tanahashi and how he took that fall off the ladder and went face first into a bin?
Yes, I remember that.
So, it wasn't just his face that was mangled. He was mangled so much from that match, he had to miss the New Japan v Noah show a few days later, which I've not seen yet, so please, no spoilers by any means. I'm staying spoiler-free. I think it included, if I remember correctly, it included a dislocated hip.
Ow.
Which I didn't know was a thing.
Ow.
Right? So, best wishes to Kenta. Flippin' heck. So,
yeah. That's not nice at all. That's painful.
I know, and talking about, more brutal matches to try and somehow make a segue here, AEW World Heavyweight Championship. The title was on the line on Dynamite. It was the return match, as it were, of Hangman Page versus Bryan Danielson, or as I like to call it, Page Danielson, I, because the number 2, as it were. There you go. So as we know, the first match was a 60-minute time limit draw. This was the return match. Iain, just to set the stage, and I think just to kind of lay the groundwork for how we're going to be discussing about the match, brief thoughts on the 60-minute draw match.
60-minute draw match. I thought it was a really, really excellent match. I really enjoyed it. It it kind of felt obvious as the match kept going on, and the constant reminder by the commentators of this is a very long match. This is the longest match in AEW history, and all this sort of stuff. You kind of felt a draw was coming, and I think overall my general thoughts on the match is, despite the fact that I thought it was an excellent match, having a first title defense, especially if you're Hangman Page, and you've come out of a really, really stellar storyline with Kenny Omega, Young Bucks, and all that sort of stuff, you've battled adversity, you've got the belt, you defended it against a nearly unstoppable Bryan Danielson, and it just ends in a draw. I think it kind of muted that sort of definitive start to a reign. I mean, when you had Danielson versus Omega, 30 minutes. No belt on the line, the draw is fine because of the context of the match. Whereas here, this is a World Championship match, and it's just ended on a draw. And it was, I mean, I was kind of a little bit deflated. I really enjoyed the match. A little bit deflated by the ending on the first one.
I totally understand where you're coming from on that, because the draw is a very unique scenario, especially in world title matches. And I want to say, and someone can please correct me if I'm totally talking codswallop on this, I don't think there has been a 60-minute time limit draw in one of the big promotions. I'm pretty sure there was one in Ring of Honor a good few years ago. I want to say it was Austin Aries and Tyler Black, aka Seth Rollins. I want to say there's one for that. I don't recall there being one in WWE that was a 60-minute time limit draw. I know there have been near 60-minute matches, obvious, but in very recent years I'm talking about. So okay. It is very out of the ordinary for that to happen. I have no problem with the draw, and the thing I had most umbrage with in the first match was watching on the Fight TV feed and watching on a delay, spoiler free. I knew 5 minutes in the thing was going to a 60-minute draw, and it's because of the amount of padding and filler it felt like there was.
Yeah.
I would say the ratio to filling to actual wrestling, for want of a better phrase, it made me know where this was going. I still enjoyed the match, particularly the final 10-15 minutes, but leading up to that, it was actually difficult in some ways to watch. But when we come to the rematch, I loved this match. I think it blew the 60-minute draw out of the water. I know there'll be people who will disagree with me with that. I enjoyed not only how it built on the first match between the two, I also liked how it felt a lot more intense, and that Hangman Page actually had a bit of gusto to him, I think I'll put it. It almost felt like he was really nervous in the first match, and that's kind of the story that I felt for him. But in this instance, he came out basically guns blazing, arms swinging, kicking. Bad phrase, but there you go. And I think he clearly learnt from that first encounter, and that's why I really enjoyed the second one, particularly because Danielson was trying to throw everything at him. And I want to say, I think I saw a comment on Twitter that said he basically used every way that he had won a match since he had come to AEW in the rematch. And then none of them were good enough to beat Page on the day. But the one thing, and this is me adding my thoughts now, but the one thing that we more than likely knew would down Danielson, based on the 60-minute draw, was the buckshot lariat. And that turned out to be the case. I really enjoyed this match.
Yeah, I think the second match was by far better than the first one. Vicious, intense, both combatants get bloodied, all that sort of stuff. And yeah, it's just like I like that idea you've just talked about of Danielson using every sort of submission or every sort of like way to damage an opponent in his arsenal from his past battles with the Dark Order to kind of try and build the fact that he's trying everything and he still can't put away Page. And yeah, I think having Page being a little bit more aggressive, a bit more vicious, that's a good sign of a strong champion. It's a nice sort of base for a babyface champion as well, because there were fun moments in the match where Danielson is trying to show off to the judges, because obviously there's the stipulation of having the judges now in this match, and you have Big Show.
We'll get to those.
Big Show, Mark Henry. I can't remember the third one.
Jerry Lynn.
And I think one of my favorite moments of the match is just Danielson bringing Page over, putting him into like a stretch right in front of the Big Show. Yep, this is how it's done. Look how I'm stretching him. And Big Show is just, or Paul Wright. Sorry, we're using AEW terminology.
Yeah, but
Paul White is just sat there with his clipboard going, "Oh yes, I see how you're stretching him. Let me make a note. Yes, good stretching. Tick in the box." 2 points.
I want to know what the actual notes on their respective clipboards were. I want to see a picture.
I don't think they had any.
Paul White was writing a lot of stuff.
Maybe Paul White was just doodling or pitching ideas for like trying to find a new home for the Big Show somewhere, because it's been cancelled off Netflix.
I wonder why.
But no. I think the second match was really, really good. It's a definitive win for Page, so that gets him off the market as a champion, and that's good to see. He's the first roster member to give Danielson a loss as well, which is very significant. So that's a nice little feather to have in the cap as well. And I like the match. It's just now, I think I'm now curious now to see who's next to challenge Hangman. Because it's like a lot of the people that I would expect to challenge him are currently busy in other little feuds. So I'm not sure who can kind of fill in the gap till maybe Revolution or all the way to Double or Nothing. That's the sort of thing to ponder.
Totally. And I will say as well that let's not forget that a big thing about AEW at the start of a new year, which it wasn't emphasized heavily sans the MJF CM Punk stuff, which we'll get to in a few moments. But it's the fact that the win-loss records reset for the calendar year.
Yeah.
So this also now means that Page has now started the year with a win, and Danielson started the year with a loss. And it's not something that was put across, but it almost makes me wonder if that's why ultimately they went with the 60-minute time limit draw, then a rematch, was to make it so your first match of the year is a big-ass title match.
Yeah, could work. Obviously, it was the first episode on TBS, so obviously you want big matches. So obviously, this was guaranteed to be on the card at least, or a World Championship match of some description was going to be on the card.
Yeah.
Just a quick shout out to our Twitch chat in here on the show. Dead Pixel Dave, he believes it was little stick drawings on the notepads.
All right, so
can one of them for Paul White be a really big stickman? and he's going, "I'm a giant." He said, like, "Yes, we know that, Paul, but I'm a giant."
I want to imagine he was drawing like a Stickman comic strip, and that he was like doing the process of choke slamming someone. Like, so one moment just two people side to side, then the next moment grabs the throat with one hand. The third picture is him lifting them in the air. The fourth one is just slamming them down. Or
maybe he's trying to make a memoir of how many times he turned face and heel over the course of his career. It's like, was I face here? Am I face? Am I heel? I don't know. Bryan, am I face or heel? Tell me. I'm stretching this guy out, Paul. Look how well I'm stretching him. For the benefit of our viewers and our audio listeners, I'm trying to demonstrate a stretch, but the camera's not showing me doing the... There we go, we'll do it like this. So my hands are right just under my chin. I'm trying to do some sort of weird...
You have an S grip as it's phrased.
It's like I have a weird sort of master... It's a master lock, or like it's a hurt lock without anyone in it in between. I don't know what the purpose of this is, but I'm stretching!
In a bid to help you break the stretch, as it were. Just quick note, the judges. What did you think?
I think, considering they made a big deal out of it, it was kind of mute at the end, which is fair.
Yeah.
Which is fair enough. I get that, because obviously when you have a decisive winner, great, fine, done. But obviously they made a big deal out of it for like 2 weeks. And they're saying, they're going to be judges. They're going to score in case we go draw. Because originally I just thought this is going to be another draw, which I really didn't want to see, to be perfectly honest. But no, I was just like, I think for all the hype and sort of like spotlight they put on like how important these judges are, it was really mute. But not the end of the world, but just mute.
Yeah, I agree, and this isn't obviously taking away from the three people that they had, but it was in a way... I can't remember who actually said it, but I think someone on Twitter, again, shout out to whoever that was in the ether of the annals of time. But someone kind of went, in a weird way, this is a prime case of all the fans overhyping something really simple. Like, it's in hindsight, a very insignificant point. But, we were thinking, right, who could they bring in? Could there be someone from Paige's past who he's wronged? Would it be from Danielson's past? Could it be someone debuting as a judge? There was lots of theories going around. And realistically, they brought in 3 legends who they have under contract working backstage. It makes complete sense. Yeah. But no one had that idea in their brain.
Or rather than trying to overhype it with that, just say there must be a winner. So they get to 60 minutes. It's basically, there's no time limit. Just make the match as long as it needs to be. That's one way out. But obviously then that defeats the point of a time limit draw. I don't know.
But then what would have happened to the epic battle that was Captain Sean Dean versus MJF?
Well, I don't know. I don't know how no time limit or there must be a winner. Because poor MJF lost by DQ.
Now, do you know what? I thought... So, to set the scene just briefly, just so we cover it in context, MJF was facing Captain Sean Dean. The bell rings, and within moments, CM Punk comes running down to the ring, and then there's a bit of a standoff, like, what's going on here? And then randomly, and eventually, just basically causes a DQ finish for Sean Dean to win by GTSing him. A bit excessive, but sure. But then he gets on the mic and just makes it known, so long as we've got beef, I'm going to do this every week. Pretty much, which is great because it now means, if I remember correctly, MJF has only been involved in 3 losing matches. I want to say one was Jon Moxley.
Yeah, that was at a pay-per-view.
Obviously Sean Dean. The other one...
Jericho.
It was Jericho, wasn't it? Yeah. So there you go. So he's only had 3 losses. And like Sean Dean's been lapping this up on Twitter as well. Been going, hey, I think we should get a new shirt for me. Like, I beat MJF. Like, Pro Wrestling Tees, get on that. It's been good fun seeing that stuff. And then we got a wonderful verbal exchange between MJF and Punk with just jibes going back and forth. But my highlight of the entire thing, and I know some people perhaps take umbrage or have an issue with the amount of WWE references, but this is a time where I think it worked perfectly. Because MJF did his usual line of, the bidding war of 2024, or whatever it is. And then Punk just says something to the effect of, hey, if you want to go and headline night 4 of a buy one, get one free WrestleMania, be my guest. Then you'll get released, come back, and I'll still be here. It's like, just perfect. Freaking perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, those sort of zingers I can appreciate. I think it's when it's very low-hanging fruit and it's like a quick win just to pop the crowd. Is when like the whole sour grape, no, I'm not going to define it as sour grapes. It's the whole sort of jibe attacks on WWE. I mean, most of the wrestling community, most of the internet wrestling community know the pros and cons of WWE right now. Obviously, there's a lot of cons out there at the moment. Obviously, last week when we were doing this live, we had all those NXT releases, which we will probably touch on a little bit towards the end of the show when we've done all the AEW stuff. But it's like we get it that it's a different company. They do things differently. Some talent have history with them, and we all know the history of CM Punk with WWE. Everyone knows that, and it's like, it's always going to be that frictionless. It's always going to be that sort of venomous as well. But it's just always relying on just kind of getting your kicks in. I mean, it doesn't... At the end of the day, it's like... The first couple of times, yeah, it's fun. But after a while, it's like... Really? It's like, is there anything else we can really try and do? I mean, that's what, like, the first... It's kind of like how the first verbal jousting between MJF and CM Punk went down really, really well, because it's like the use of the references really kind of worked. It's like comparing MJF to Miz, for example, and so forth, and it works. It works there, but it's just like, I think it needs to be rationed. I guess it's like do it in rations, and you'll be fine. But it's like using it as the easy pickings every week is not particularly the best way. But that's just me.
this is why I think now that they've actually made it personal between the two, there's actually a reason for them to have more beef with each other, as it were. Like, literally, he cost MJF a match, and his AEW career record now has been grossly affected by it. Yeah. And potentially more so. So there's actually a more AEW home, quote-unquote, reason excuse me, for them to actually have a bit of an issue. The other thing that's interesting, obviously, following the verbal jousting, we then got confirmation we are going to see... I need to say MJF v Wardlow. Not yet. That'll probably happen in the future.
Yet. It'll happen soon, but not yet. Not now.
Exactly. But we're going to see CM Punk versus Wardlow on Dynamite that's airing tonight, the 12th of January, 2022, for reference, at the time of recording. Which I'm really looking forward to, especially because Wardlow recently has been on a freaking tear with his Powerbomb Symphony, which is a great name for a series of powerbombs. It's freaking great.
It's fun watching Wardlow do his little squash matches. Yes, it's kind of the same. It's like, grab opponent, powerbomb again. How about another powerbomb? Another powerbomb to get it over the finish line. Basically, I think when Wardlow goes against MJF, there's going to be a really sweet pop about it, and I think it's gonna make him as a star for AEW.
Will it be tonight? Will he turn tonight?
Part of me thinks maybe not. Maybe the match doesn't really start. Maybe the match doesn't actually happen to a degree. Maybe MJF gets involved, I wonder if it's going to be a return of form. So basically, last episode of Dynamite, we have CM Punk doing a DQ to MJF. I wonder if MJF's going to just do a DQ to Wardlow to make Punk lose.
Like he'll punch him with like the diamond ring or something.
Yeah, or just get Sean Spears just to smack him with a chair or something like that. And go, oh no, Wardlow, we're sorry, we didn't mean to do that. It might be like a very harmless sort of oops sort of way. I don't know. I can see some skullduggery going on to cause a DQ loss to Punk. I think that would be logical. And then eventually, just before, or maybe even after Punk and MJF happens, then Wardlow goes off. Because, I mean, they've been talking about Revolution, obviously, the face of the Revolution ladder match, and they want Wardlow to rack up the wins and get MJF in there. I imagine the turn is going to happen around that point. Because I can't imagine Wardlow wanting to enter enter that match and then win it for MJF. I can't imagine that's going to work. From a character standpoint, I think by that time, he's powerbombing MJF several times beforehand.
And it will be magical when it happens.
It will be marvellous. And there'll be violins, there'll be cellos, there'll be flutes, all playing a lovely "This is War" low.
I think, this is just wild prediction here, I reckon MJF might be on commentary for the match tonight. And then it will be a case where Punk's getting a bit of steam, if you will.
Yeah.
And then MJF goes, right, I've got to do something about this. Goes down to ringside, and then perhaps like accidentally trips up Wardlow or something when when someone gets whipped into the ropes, and then he thinks it's going to be Punk and just kind of turns his back and tries to pull on the leg, but instead it's Wardlow. And then there's a distraction, leads to a pin, something to that degree, or like you say, just outright skullduggery or something.
Yeah.
And then it wouldn't surprise me if that leads to them Punk having to face the rest of what are they called? The Pinnacle. There you go. Got their name.
That's their name.
They haven't said it in weeks. Because I would love to see Punk wrestle Sean Spears, Dax, and Cash. Like, I'd love to see that happen.
You got a couple of weeks worth of matches there to definitely to do up until maybe Revolution, or even simpler. MJF just convinces CM Punk some way to chase him out of the arena or chase him out of the ringside area and gets a count out loss.
I think that's ultra cheap by AEW standards, though.
It could be, but it depends how it's done. I think it will be depending how it's done. If it's done in a smart way, then it can be done. If it can't, if the trick is to try and make sure Punk and MJF do not trade blows until their match, this is a way to do it. Because they even had that Christmas Day, not Christmas Day. They had the Christmas Dynamite episode where trios match FTR and MJF versus CM Punk, Darby Allin, and Sting, and they didn't even touch once, which was amazing.
Yep. Yeah, it's gonna be a wait, but I think it'll be worth it.
Yes,
to say the least. Mm-hmm. So we go from, I don't know what I was going to try and say, like a trio of problems, because on both sides there are, but to like another trio of problems, that being the Paragon / Undisputed / something, that being Adam of Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, and Bobby LaFish.
Ah, the good old Undisputed, but don't call them Undisputed now. Reunion.
I've been trying to think of other words they could use, and I was thinking maybe like undeniable or unstoppable.
Yeah, I think the stories that are going around, or basically what's been reported, is a trademark has been filed for the word Paragon, which is word
what Kyle O'Reilly said in his first promo to Adam Cole.
Yeah, so that's the rumoured stable name. I think it's a pretty cool name. I think it's I think it will work. But yeah, it's just the surreal thing that the original Undisputed Era are now in AEW, and it's weird but also exciting at the same time. I think if any wrestling fan said at the start of 2021, oh yeah, by this time next year all of the original Undisputed Era will be in AEW, it's like I think most people will be a little bit shocked, because even then we didn't see them breaking up until maybe Valentine's Day Massacre at NXT. All that sort of stuff. But yes, they're all there. I think there's a nice little touch that they didn't bring in Kyle O'Reilly nice and fresh. They just brought him in as like, hey, we've had issues before. Yeah. We've had issues in other places, but let's try and work professionally here right now, and then we'll see about whether or not if we're friends again. In that sort of thing.
I think I said it to you on the show last week that AEW does a better job of following WWE continuity than WWE does.
Yeah.
Like, just acknowledge it once. That's all you've got to do. It's like with MJF and Wardlow. They acknowledged it once that Wardlow is employed by MJF, and now they've planted that seed of in the contract. In the first time I've actually ever heard it read out.
Yeah.
It's that thing of if and when Wardlow wins a title, it by default goes to MJF. That's all they've got to do. Mention it once, and it's been said.
I mean, you can go even further back to like the very first Double or Nothing, when Moxley turns up at the end, and Jericho's going, "You're not supposed to be here. What are you doing here?" Because obviously he's still upset about his jacket. I was about to say Mitch, but no, Mitch was Dean Ambrose file pot. It's the jacket he's annoyed about, and all that sort of stuff. But no, I mean, this is definitely building to some dream match nirvana, really, because I think we're both in agreement. The end goal, I think a lot of fans are hoping this is going to be the end goal. The end goal is going to be the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega versus Cole and basically Red Dragon or Dragon Gate, or basically Paragon, Undisputed, basically
Paragon v the Elite.
The Paragon era. There we go. Done.
Because now, what I will say is this. Think back to 2 years ago. Yeah, it would have been because fans were in the building. That insane tag team match between Omega and Page versus the Young Bucks. Mm-hmm. Potentially one of the greatest tag team matches in history. I've never gone back and watched it, but I was in awe of watching that when I did. The idea these 6 men... Assuming Omega is involved, because he may not be for a while. I don't know what the status of Kenny Omega is and stuff, but hypothetically speaking, the eventual 6-man tag match that you probably didn't think was going to happen this time last year, ever, quite frankly, it's probably going to happen at some point this year. One would assume they could even save it for as late as All Out, if they really wanted to.
I would say you can have a really good summer feud if you kick it off at Double or Nothing. And do Double or Nothing all the way through to All Out. You can have a really, really stellar feud. It can work. It can really work. I think it's too early to pull the trigger at Revolution, and that's mostly because obviously Kenny is still recovering from a very long year of hard work and niggling injuries.
That's an understatement.
Understatement of the year. But there are other teams for them to feud with and to start sowing the seeds of dissent between the factions or between the groups. You've obviously got Best Friends, you've got the Hardy Family Office, but they're not really kind of baby facing in a well. Trying to think what else. Jurassic Express as well. So
in a circle?
In a circle, yep. There's lots of even Pinnacle as well. There's lots of there's lots of little bits and pieces that they can tie over to really build up the tension, to sort of fracture the sort of relationships between Cole and the Young Bucks and so forth, and then pull the trigger when Kenny's good to go. I think that's the only way this works. This works lovely. I mean, you can definitely have a few one-on-ones. You can definitely do like Cole versus the Jacksons siblings one after the other or something like that. You can definitely have the Young Bucks versus Fish and O'Reilly. I mean, that match in itself will be spectacular as well. So it's
Red Dragon is such a good tag team.
Yeah.
Have you seen that T-shirt, by the way? They've just brought out.
Yeah,
it looks so good. Go on shop AEW, people, and just look up the Red Dragon shirt. It's so good. Like, I've somehow not ordered anything from shop AEW, despite numerous attempts of me trying to, because, money. But that Red Dragon shirt was nearly the point where I went, oh no, there's like 3 shirts I do need at some point. Including like the Hikaru Shida Samurai Cat t-shirt. It's the best. Have you seen
Samurai
this?
Pizza Cats?
No. That's a dream scenario. No, it's like she's got it's like a face of a cat, but it's got like samurai garb around it.
Okay.
Look up while we're talking. If you want to put it up on screen in a few minutes for the video viewers, you can. Otherwise, people just go and look it up on Shop AEW. It's good fun.
Yeah, I'll probably look at it after the show. But no, it's like you almost. It's like if it was Samurai Pizza Cats, it's like I am effing there. Off we go to Shop AEW.
Hypothetically speaking, if I ever got a chance to speak to Hikaru Shida, if I had to make it an anime-based question to ask her, I probably would just say, are you aware of Samurai Pizza Cat?
I mean, what was it? I remember, random tangent, and we'll be quick on this. I remember when the show came. I've watched a couple of like video essays on Samurai Pizza Cats, and the show wasn't necessarily a big hit in Japan. It was
it was kind of a flop, to be quite frank.
Yeah. And when they basically handed it over to like US international markets, they just went, "You want to do your own version of the script? Fine, off you go."
I'm pretty sure that to quickly finish this thought, the way they wrote that show was they literally watched the episodes on mute and wrote stories based on what they saw in front of them.
I just love the start of with the American version of when it just starts off and you just see the bird, you just hear someone, "Can someone please kill that bird?"
There's no easy way to segue into the next point I'm going to make, folks. But the TBS title tournament came to a conclusion. It was Jade Cargill versus Ruby Soho for the inaugural TBS Championship. And it was Jade Cargill who came dressed to impress, quite frankly, in her amazing Storm cosplay. Because if people don't know, she used to cosplay as Storm as X-Men on the regular, and it is such a good cosplay. This is following Thunder Rosa doing X-23/Wolverine the week before.
I think she did a really cool My Hero Academia cosplay.
Yeah.
I can't remember who the character's name is. Like, I know what the character is. I don't know the name because I haven't watched or read a lot of Full Metal Alchemist. I haven't watched a lot of My Hero Academia. I've watched like the first series and that's it. But this character doesn't appear later. But she does some amazing cosplays, Jade Cargill.
But Jade Cargill is the inaugural champion. She defeated Ruby Soho. Mm-hmm. Right, look, not to bring the mood down here. I think it was on last week's show, or the week before, whichever it was. I talked about how I felt that the match with Thunder Rosa was too long. There were some great moments, like the pump kick that looked brutal on Thunder Rosa. There were wonderful moments in that match, but it was too long, and it ended up dragging and kind of took me out of it. Same again for me, unfortunately. And it's nothing against Jade Cargill, because she's had, 20 matches or something? She's not had that much experience. But this is a case where I appreciate they wanted to give the final time. And I fully respect that, and I'm glad they wanted to do that. Mm-hmm. But this is an instance where I actually think it would have been more beneficial if this was really short and quick. And Jade Cargill maybe just caught Ruby Soho completely off guard, just delivered an almighty pump kick or something, and then Ruby is like, oh crap, I really screwed that up. You could then lead to a rematch or something. I think this would have benefited much more from being shorter, but I still don't take away the fact that Jade is champion because I'm happy about that. Yeah. It's just a shame to me that the final of what has been such a great tournament, it fell flat for me, unfortunately. That's just the way I'm going to call it.
I'm very pleased Jade won. I think when we talked about the TBS tournament many episodes ago, I think I sort of earmarked Jade to win it because it just felt like it was the right kind of thing to work Jade towards. And yeah, I'm pleased, but yeah, I understand your, I wouldn't say misgivings. I would understand your sort of constructive criticism in the match. I mean, again, Jade hasn't been wrestling long. She's about a year now. She's been wrestling properly. On AEW?
March, because that was when the Shaq match wasn't it?
Yes, it was the St. Patrick's Day match, wasn't it?
Also, where did Shaq go? He was in the ambulance and disappeared. That's never been answered. But anyway, continue.
The mystery. It might actually been different. I don't know because I think Cody had a match with Penta. Was it Penta? I might be wrong. It's so long ago, I've completely forgot. But yes,
that's so last year.
That's so last year. So 2021 early. But no. It's like Jade's been wrestling for about a year, and she will get better. I think out of a lot of wrestlers who enter the ropes, and sometimes they do try their hardest, and they really do try. It's like you can sense Jade is really trying, and she does improve with these slightly longer matches. Mm-hmm. Not perfect, not great, but I think it does show faith from AEW. The AEW have faith in Jade, and they're giving her this opportunity. And hopefully, with the defenses and so forth, they'll team up with wrestlers who'll be able to get the most out of Jade, or be able to give Jade a good match as well. And then hopefully after that, Jade might turn her attention to the Women's Championship. The fact is, like, she's an absolute star in AEW. She has charisma. She has presence. Jade, literally,
for want of a better way of putting it, Jade as an all-encompassing entity in AEW is fantastic. Everything about the presentation is great. It's just literally the in-ring experience. That's not a knock on her, because you can only gain experience by doing. Sorry, I interrupted you. I'll let you continue.
But no, I think my bottom line is she will get better, and she's demonstrating she's getting better. And I think, give it time. Maybe this time next year, she's having some really stellar matches for like the Women's Championship, or even still holding the TBS. It's that sort of thing. The fact of the matter is, the nice thing is, it's showcased the women's division quite nicely, the TBS tournament. And now that the tournament is out of the way, a little bit more focus on the women's division on Dynamite would be very beneficial. And I think we'll touch a little bit more about that when we get to talking about Battle of the Belts. Yeah. Because definitely in terms of where the Women's Championship is at the moment. But no, I'm very pleased Jade won. It's been a good tournament, even with the odd missteps, or even with matches not necessarily living up to their full potential. It's still been a very, very successful tournament, and I think, the right person's won.
Oh, 100% agree. And the other thing I, in a way, would like to see happen, now, this is full disclosure, I don't watch AEW Dark or Dark Elevation, because quite frankly, I do other things in life. There's only so much
There's
time.
a lot of wrestling. Yeah, there's a lot of wrestling, Jeremy.
I do other things, and there's other wrestling as well I want to watch, like stuff from Japan, for example. So I very much pick and choose now what I watch.
Yeah.
And there's an element where, if you're effectively taping, you're doing a set of Dark tapings at Universal Studios every so often, and you're taping matches for one or the other Dark shows in an arena every week. Forgive the way I'm going to phrase this, but I mean it with the best will in the world. Throw a Jade match on one of those. Just have her get more matches, because I don't know how many matches she's had, but it's only been like 20. I think based on her record.
Let me check the All Elite page. Let me check the All Elite page. But no, it's like, just to sort of counter that, she's definitely been featured a lot on Dark and Dark Elevation, because that's how it built up like the winning streak.
Fair. Yeah, I guess actually now you mention it, yeah, okay. I will retract that, sort of the way that came out then, because I did mean it's a chance to experiment more with the matches she could have, perhaps.
Yeah.
And stuff. But, I mean, also the other thing as well, and this is again in Jade's defense, is there's only one TV show or one event a week, effectively, to be able to wrestle in at the moment. Okay. AEW aren't running non-televised events.
I have Jade's stats here. Career in AEW: 23 wins, 0 losses.
Okay,
there we go.
Yeah.
So yeah,
since March last year, that would have been, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So they've definitely used Dark and Dark Elevation to kind of rack up those sort of extra points.
Yeah. But I think it's a good time to really utilise that. Also, because then you can say the champion's wrestling on the show. Quite frankly.
Yeah, this is true.
Adds a bit more prestige to that. But yeah, really happy that Jade is the first champion. Also, shout out to her kid. Her kid was cute as heck and looks so happy. There's that wonderful photo. I don't know if you saw it. I think Jade shared it in particular. A beautiful photo of Jade carrying the belt and holding her child in her arms on the entrance ramp. It was such a good photo. Such a great visual.
But yeah, and again, it's like the short that having come from like that first to end that nearly your first full year in AEW like that. I think it's just shown how Jade's come along, and like I said, I feel she will only get better.
I'm actually thinking about it now. Jade would have been on TV far earlier. Because there was like that incredibly long build-up to that Shaq match, wasn't there? And like it was meant to be Brandy, and then it became Red Velvet because Brandy ended up having a baby. So
yeah, because it's like I think it was around this time last year, or maybe just the start of February, that Jade just suddenly arrived to tell Cody off, and away we went.
Oh yeah, it was, wasn't it? She just appeared, didn't she?
She just appeared and just said, "Shaq's going to beat you." And there's like, all right,
the most off-cuff way to mention Shaq, and even everyone's like. But wait, what did she just say?
It's like, who are you? Oh, hello. What are we doing? Fighting. Great. All right, fine. Off we go. Here's Shaq.
So from one champion to another, we actually got a title change on Dynamite last week. That being that I need to say Jungle Express. That's not their name. Because I need to say Jungle Boy. But anyway,
no, Jungle Man. He's not a Jungle Boy anymore, Jeremy. He's a
Jungle Lad. Jungle Lad.
All right, Jungle Lad.
Jungle Lad and Luchasaurus, Jurassic Express, are the new AEW World Tag Team Champions. They defeated the Lucha Bros, Phoenix and Penta El Zero Miedo, M, whichever it is. I've just forgotten off the top of my head. This match. This is almost a tale of two directions. This went in because this match was really good fun. It was really, really good. Then the ending happened. The final, 2 minutes of this match changed the entire complexion of it for everyone watching at home, at least. Because in the building, I don't imagine many people knew what had happened. But to try and explain it in the least graphic way as possible, Luchasaurus choke-slammed Phoenix onto a table that was set up on the outside. Also, potential storyline continuity. Did you notice how it was actually Alex Abrahantes that called for the table to be set up?
Yes.
Just saying. Keep that in mind for the future, maybe. Long-term planning here.
Long-term storytelling. It's in the back of our minds.
The chokeslam happened, and from the camera angle that you saw initially, you immediately saw Phoenix start pointing at his arm and calling for someone in medical to come and look at him. And I noticed it instantly, not knowing what happened because I was watching on a delay the following afternoon and stuff. I'd stayed spoiler-free. But I could tell something was up. You knew. And then the match came to a conclusion, had a great finish, new tag team champions. Then we started getting replays of what happened. And with the best will in the world, I mean this. I'm not trying to sound antagonising here. Clearly no one in the production truck and or the commentators had noticed what happened. Because when they showed the first replay, Phoenix's arm went in a direction it should not. Yes. And how his arm is not broken is freaking beyond me. That guy is inhuman. Apparently, I think it was just a really bad dislocation, and possibly, I haven't heard any of the more updates, but I think there was rumours he needed to get a scan for possible ligament damage and stuff.
Yeah.
But the fact his arm is not broken is a freaking miracle, and honestly, I have zero intention of ever watching that bump again. It was bad enough watching the replays, and there was one particular angle where not to say I'm squeamish, but in wrestling, you kind of have a high tolerance for things that people do. And bumps that some people take. It's like, half the time people land on their heads, I'm like, oh, must you? But I'm still in the moment kind of thing. But that took me completely out the moment when I saw what had happened. And in a way, it's a real shame. Obviously, because Phoenix is injured, he's one of the best things about AEW. But also just because it's always going to be a little bit of an asterisk on that Jurassic Express win. And it's so annoying because they deserve it so much.
Yeah. I think in the terms of the actual match, I think the call was always going to be Jurassic Express was going to win the belts here.
Agreed.
Because throughout that episode of Dynamite, they'd been sort of teasing having a war of some sorts with Malachi Black and someone. Because the lights went out during that main event as well. So I think possibly the game plan might have been that's where we were going to see Brody King, Malachi Black's tag partner on the Indies, finally show up in AEW. Obviously, Phoenix hurting his arm kind of changed that a little bit. So you have this very sudden victory, which is nice to see because Jurassic Express again are so over the crowd. It was a sort of like a shock happy moment, and then towards the end of the episode, or during the celebrations, all the tag teams come out. They stand on the ramp. There's that sense of foreboding. Okay, we're going to fight all these. You're going to have to take on all these teams in the future, and then you get some weird sort of cuts to a skybox of some of the wrestlers just sat there, just casually, just going, "Yeah, it's been a good night." It's like, wait, camera, clap. Oh, it's off me. And they did. Yeah. It's like
Santana and Ortiz was there at one point,
and even Malachi Black.
So here's. First of all, I totally get your theory, and it wouldn't surprise me if it was the case they were going to perhaps have a big surprise.
Yeah.
But the lights going out has been happening randomly, like once a show, I think, for about 2 or 3 weeks now. Obviously, not with any kind of thing involving Malachi Black himself, notwithstanding.
Yeah.
So I think they're doing an incredibly slow tease up to this. And there's going to come a point where something will finally be revealed. Like you said, the indication is Brody King is coming in, which I've not seen them as a tag team, Malachi Black and Brody King. I have heard they are freaking great, and I want to check out the PWG show where they first debuted and stuff, because it sounds like it was a barn burner.
I mean...
But the other thing that was surprising to me as well, and I don't know if this is because I've just got this firmly in my head it was going to happen then, it surprised me that Christian didn't turn. Because it seemed like the optimal time to do it if they were going to pull the trigger. That said, I actually really like the fact he's helped them win the titles.
Yeah.
Because now, when he can eventually cost them the titles, it can add even more to it. Or maybe that something will happen where he may start getting jealous of them being champions or something. There's another way to build it and such. Well, but having all the tag teams come out, it may, to me, although perhaps you could argue clearly the match maybe should have gone a bit longer, they were trying to fill some time, it also, like you said, gave that sense of, right, we're going to see Jurassic Express v Red Dragon, v The Acclaimed, v FTR, Santana and Ortiz. And I'm just thinking, all of these are going to be great matches.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. And all the best to Phoenix, obviously. Hopefully he's not out for too long. Like I said, the fact his arm is not broken is a flipping miracle, quite frankly. And however long he's out for, when he eventually comes back, it's going to be great to see.
Yeah. It was a very nasty bump. I mean, it's like, I think I only saw it once, and then once the replays, I was like, no, I don't want to see this again. This is not nice. This is something that obviously should not really happen in wrestling, but it's just I guess it's like one of those moments that people didn't realise what was going on at the time.
Literally, it's live TV. It can happen. It's not me having a go at anyone.
No.
But it is just, it's kind of surprising that someone didn't realise, given that everyone watching the show, quite frankly, could tell something was up.
Yeah. But look, I think, well, hopefully, again, let's hope Phoenix is not out for too long. When they're back, Lucha Bros are back and they're challenging again. Because I think they're one of the best teams in AEW, and it's always fun watching them wrestle and get into their sort of bouts. But there's still a lot of good matchups for Jurassic Express to take, and I think Christian's going to be the cause of the end of their reign. I think you're right there. I think as much as Christian didn't cheat to help them win, I think a lot of people are sensing the turns coming soon. Maybe it might come while they're champions, and Christian will go and find someone else to team up with and try and take the belts off them. Again, another little mini storyline you could do there. Especially there's more.
Perhaps he decides someone else is going to be his protege and elevates them Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, there are. I mean, obviously, with the free agent market getting more populated from February, especially the last round of WWE releases, there are a lot of potentials that he could do that. He could do that with. It's one idea. I can't foresee it really happening, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did it.
Definitely. In terms of other quote-unquote new champions, let's move on to Battle of the Belts. This was the Saturday night special, which obviously had a focus on champions, let's say. Plans were a bit derailed for this going in earlier in the week, because it was announced, well, sort of announced, that the TNT title match was going to have a change because something had come up. Long story short, Cody's got COVID, seemingly. He's in COVID protocol, whatever they're phrasing it.
I think the way they've worded it is they had been in contact with someone who had COVID, so they are...
Thank you.
They are isolating, and they're obviously following all the necessary guidelines at this time. So yeah, I think originally it was supposed to be Cody, Sammy 2 on Battle of the Belts. It didn't get planned, didn't happen. So we have Guevara versus Dustin Rhodes. So
I
at
was
least it's
totally fine with Dustin being the replacement.
Yeah, fine. I mean, they have really good chemistry before. And, I mean, this opening match was really good.
So good. It was so good. And they just got really great chemistry. And this might sound a bit weird. There's a couple of points I want to make. We'll come to the idea of there being an interim champion in a minute as a separate point. But I kind of just forgot how much I liked Sammy just being a babyface like this. So although he's not been heel in recent times, there's just an element of just seeing him really try hard, and you have someone like Dustin who's such a great versatile veteran. Like, he just moves so good and can do so much. They've got great chemistry, and there was a buzz in that arena watching this match, and there was a moment where everyone was really into it, and then it just went into overdrive. I think it was when the Canadian Destroyer happened on the table to the outside.
No, I think it was a bit earlier when Sammy did the hop, skip, flip.
Yes, you're right. Yeah, he did like the double rope jump thing, didn't he?
Because I was watching that today, and when I saw him preparing himself, I went, no. And he hopped up, went on to one, no. He hopped onto the other rope, no. And he did the flip, and I just shouted no very loudly. I think my family might be wondering why if I was shouting no about. But it's like, no, don't do this, Sammy. Oh, you've done it. Oh, dear.
It's like, no!
It's like something insane's about to happen. I don't want to see it go wrong, but I also want to see it happen. But yeah, no, it definitely picked up towards the tail end, especially with Canadian Destroyers. I mean, this is like the second Canadian Destroyer went through the table. That was after... Who was that? That was after Fuego del Sol, I think.
Fuego randomly appeared.
Yeah, he just I've got a table. I'm going to set up a table. And Arnold's going, no, you don't set up the table. I've got the clock. I'm going to chase you.
Can I just I will say this. Given what we've just talked about with Phoenix... I did think it was a little bit in poor taste to bring out a table like that at ringside. Obviously, no ill will intended, obviously.
Yeah.
But there was an element of, too soon kind of thing. And yeah, accidents happen, but it was partially also thinking of, what the hell are they going to do? Like, I'm not in the mood to see another potential bad injury.
I mean, there was another table spot in the main event, which wasn't as bad, but it still... kind of looked nasty. We'll touch on that a little bit later on. Yeah. But no, overall, this was a really fun match. Even if it wasn't Cody versus Sammy, this was still great fun to watch. And yes, obviously, I don't know if the original plan may have been for Sammy to win the belt back.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Yeah, because I kind of have a feeling that he may have supposed to have won the belt back, and maybe they have a big blow off match down the road or something. But now we're going to have the unification match at some point when Cody's available.
So
I mean,
sorry, go on.
I wouldn't be surprised they do it at Revolution, to be perfectly honest. So basically, it's like Cody will just say, "Sammy, as long as you're champion as long as you're interim champion by Revolution, sure, let's unify the belts." That's the way I see it going.
So this brings up now an interesting point. What are your feelings on the concept of there being an interim champion? Because far as I can remember, sans maybe a very rare occasion in WWE years ago, which I want to say off the top of my head, it was Randy Orton being the US champion for Booker T when he was King Booker. That's how far back we're going here.
They actually had it last year. WWE had it, I think, during 2020 into 2021 because before COVID hit, Jordan Devlin had just won the Cruiserweight Championship at Worlds Collide.
You're right.
COVID happens, everything gets locked down. So when they do the Performance Center shows, they have an interim Cruiserweight Championship match, and that's the one where Santos Escobar won. I think he beat Drake. He beat the technically then leaving Drake Maverick in the final. Then Drake stayed on for a couple more years, or a year and a bit. Yeah. And then when things opened up, Stand and Deliver, the big WrestleMania NXT show, you had the unification match where Santos took on Jordan. Santos won. Cruiserweight's been unified there, but now the Cruiserweight is no more. So, But no, exactly. they have done that in WWE recently.
But the concept of there being an interim champion, though, thank you for clearing it up, by the way, because I totally forgot that. But what do you think about the concept in the world of AEW of there being an interim champion?
I mean, if it was like Cody was going to be off for like a week or two, there's no need for an interim champion. This kind of gives the impression that Cody's going to be off for a little bit longer than planned. So I don't know. Obviously, if we compare how WWE did it for the Cruiserweight Championship in 2020, makes sense because obviously these matches are not going to happen. I think New Japan kind of did it with the US Championship as well, because I think Moxley won it, but then had to relinquish it because he couldn't go back over to Japan during COVID to do
let me remember.
more matches.
So if I remember correctly, that was when there was a death match in the Tokyo Dome, and I want to say, I think Lance Archer became the champion. Oh, wow, this is really getting me. Okay, it may have been Lance Archer v Juice Robinson, because it was originally meant to be Moxley and Juice Robinson at like a November pay-per-view, maybe? I want to say. Yeah. And then it ended up going to the Tokyo Dome, which is when Moxley won it back from Archer in the Tokyo Dome because he couldn't get over because he was either injured or something had come up. I think that's me literally trying to pull out like a data bank from the back of my filing system.
I think it was to do with travel restrictions due to COVID at the time. I think that's the main crux of it. So that just tells me if we're doing interim championship for TNT, that tells me we might not see Cody probably until maybe next month at this rate, if that's how they're doing it. Which obviously, if it's for health and safety reasons, then that's fine. Wishing Cody and his family all the best in that sort of sense. It's like you don't do an interim championship unless that is the case, unfortunately. Because otherwise, I could just see them saying, "Oh, we'll do it as the main event in Dynamite in 2 weeks' time or something like that instead, and we'll do something else." Or maybe they just needed something to have for this battle of the belts.
There is that element that comes into play. From my point of view, I have zero issue with there being an interim championship. Partly because when it comes to AEW, as has been proven from track record of how they've handled various things that have occurred, be it planned or unplanned, you can pretty much trust AEW. And that it's not just going to be it's not going to be something randomly stupid. There is going to be a thought process behind it. And
again, it's like AEW have obviously had to think on their feet a little bit earlier. Towards the end of last year, obviously, with Moxley unfortunately dropping out for rehab, which hopefully Moxley we will be seeing very, very soon back in the ring. Hopefully this month. I think he's got a GWC match coming up at some point. Maybe.
Oh, is he actually like, for lack of a better phrase, because I don't know, is he actually out of rehab then now?
I don't know, but they have advertised that he will be taking part in a match in January. I think.
Okay, a GCW. Okay, that might be the Hammerstein Ballroom show they're doing. I think. Yeah.
Possibly. Yeah. But again, it's like they had to bring in Miro, and Miro became like a good, credible threat for Danielson at Full Gear. And again, we saw it last week when we were talking about Day One, and we saw how COVID kind of completely derailed creative plans for the Universal Championship.
The main event.
Yeah, the main event. So we'll make another main event. And now, I think, looking forward, I think it may have been probably. It sounds harsh, but I think it's just kind of like a mini kind of blessing in disguise for maybe the storytelling aspect of the Rumble and hopefully towards Mania. We'll touch on that maybe in another time, but it's like now that you've got, and we'll get back onto AEW in a second, but we've got Lashley, Lesnar, we've got Rollins, Reigns, and it's like those are two good headliner matches for your titles, and there may be a belt swap coming, which might be exciting. So we'll have to see. But yes, back to AEW. But no, I think interim. Yeah, I have no problems with an interim champion. I mean, Sammy was doing very good stuff. He's got a match with Daniel Garcia tonight on Dynamite, which I think will be really good. Yeah, it's like after Sammy just won it, just Garcia just slid in and just went, "I'm really angry. I'm going to put my head against yours, and then we're going to start punching."
So you've actually brought up an interesting point that I wanted to mention here. Sammy is like the best fighting champion. When you look at how many title defenses he did before he ultimately lost to Cody, he's done this open challenge thing like against so many people. It was Jay Lethal. He's doing it against Garcia now. He's taken on all comers for this title. Ethan Page got a title shot as well, if memory serves.
Oh yeah, he did, didn't he?
Yeah, like Sammy is I mean, obviously Cody's had the belt. Well, has. Pick your word.
Still has. I mean, technically, he still has the belt. He's never been. He hasn't been.
Cody won the belt on Christmas Day Rampage. Has he actually defended it yet? I genuinely can't remember. I know it's only been a couple of weeks, but I genuinely don't remember.
I don't think he did. I don't think he has.
Yeah, and to me, like Sammy just comes across as a fighting champion, and I think it works really, really well. That's
the thing with the TNT Championship. It is kind of like a let's try and do a match weekly or a match every 2 weeks.
It's a TV title.
It's a TV title, so obviously you give it some matches, all that sort of stuff. Obviously, the World Championship, you can be forgiven for having a couple of weeks between matches, give or take. But yeah, I like the idea of fighting champion, and Sammy's going to be that. And then eventually we're going to have these unification. So yes. Shall we move on from? We'll move on from a TV championship to a. Okay, what are we doing with this belt championship? And then we're talking about the FTW championship.
So, again, to sort of paint a picture here, it was announced the night before Battle of the Belts on Rampage that Ricky Starks would be defending the FTW championship against Matt Sydal, carrying on the Dante Martin thing they've got going on.
Yeah.
I have zero issue with this, except for one element, which is kind of something that... I'll just say this. I really like the FTW title as a concept, kind of what it stands for and stuff like that. But the idea, it's not acknowledged by AEW, but it's then defended on AEW television. And is openly acknowledged as being an FTW title match. It just seems a bit counterintuitive to me. What does the concept of AEW doesn't acknowledge it mean?
It's not their belt, maybe? I'm not sure, because it's not a belt that they've introduced. I don't know.
For example, as a counterpoint, we've had the New Japan US title, the IWGP US title, defended and changed hands. The Impact Wrestling title was defended and changed hands in AEW. But where does the FTW title stand on that? Because both those other belts were acknowledged, but this belt's been seen on television far more, very rarely defended, mind you. Do you see what I mean? I'm not trying to rag on it. It's just
I know.
This does just feel, I guess the word is oddly inconsistent by AEW standards.
Is the FTW Championship actually affiliated with any other brand?
Taz.
It's just Taz.
It is literally. So, are you familiar with the history of the FTW title?
I believe it was something that, obviously it's something Taz created for some reason at some point.
Yeah. So if I remember correctly, just giving a very loose remembering of this, I want to say he was trying to get a title shot in ECW circa 1998, 1999, and he was basically getting so pissed off that he couldn't get a title match or the title that he then created his own belt, the FTW belt, which at the time stood for the F the World belt. And so it was the idea this was his belt, and there's only ever been, like, I think technically 2 champions before it came to ECW. The other one was Sabu by some fluke and randomness, but inherently it was Taz's title, and it was kind of like what the movement stood for. Like, he doesn't give a damn about the world. This is the way he does things. he's now brought that back, and that's kind of helped elevate Team Taz, which Team Taz is awesome. I love Team Taz. It's just how the FTW title fits into this. It just seems very muddy and inconsistent to me.
I think I understand it now as sort of like it's a belt that Taz created in ECW and is not being really used anywhere else. I kind of get the idea that Taz has brought this in to kind of up, obviously, his little stable, and AEW management have just gone, you're just being silly. We're not going to acknowledge this belt. And I kind of see it from that point of view. But yeah I think if they're going to keep featuring it and they're going to keep talking about it and they're going to keep putting it front and center when it talks about Team Taz, then something, it needs to be kind of acknowledged properly. I don't know. It's just like it's a weird thing. Maybe it's the agreement.
You get what I mean, though, right?
I get what you mean. Maybe there'll be a storyline down the line where there's a plucky baby face and someone takes the championship away from Team Taz, and Team Taz are incensed, and the challenger does not feel obliged to give them a championship shot because it's like, well, it's not really an AEW belt, so I can just keep this belt for as long as I want. Hey,
yeah.
So I could see some fun happening with that.
Yeah, I suppose I'm trying to think of a way of sort of trying to play this out a bit more. If it was one of those things where, say, like, because Ricky Starks just kind of openly said it on the commentary at Rampage, like, I'm sick and tired of this. Tomorrow night, I'm defending this belt, the FTW belt. Yeah, AEW, this belt you don't want us to talk about. Kind of play it up a little bit more so it feels like it's a little bit rogue. Or even if he's going to come out for a match and defend it, then just get on the mic and go, by the way, this is for my FTW title. You know, just kind of almost acknowledge the fact it's meant to feel different, or there's weirdness around it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean,
but I'm labouring the point, though. Sorry.
Yeah, I think part of me feels that that match was probably added to the card because of obviously the changes to the card, obviously caused by Cody's omission and all that sort of stuff. So, I mean, for what it's worth, it was a fun little match. I love Ricky Starks' spear.
Oh, so good. Ricky Starks is amazing.
Yeah, it's just the way he just sort of flies at like the speed of lightning or something like that, and just takes out Seitel in the middle. It's quite fun. But yeah, it's a fun little match. It's not really much else really to talk about because it's just like, well, it's all about the belt, and it's a belt that still kind of doesn't make much sense in AEW to a point. But yeah. But it was a battle for a belt, hence it's in Battle of the Belts. Yep,
exactly. And that's not just us skirting over it really quickly. It was a fun match. They've got great chemistry. And then there was some stuff involving Dante Martin after. We're going to get Ricky Starks and Dante, but eventually.
I think we've got Hobbs versus Martin.
Yeah, that's on Dynamite tonight.
On Dynamite.
So yeah.
Part of me kind of thinks, I could see Martin sort of pick up a lucky win, but I also think Hobbs might destroy him.
I mean, hey, we'll get onto that in a minute, but you ain't wrong. The other match we should talk about, well, because there's only one match left to talk about from Battle of the Belts, is the Women's World Championship match with Britt Baker defending against Riho. You'll recall, the first ever AEW Women's World Champion. Odd note, which I want to make mention of. Did you notice on commentary how they kept occasionally referencing that Riho was the first AEW Women's World Champion? They kept making it a purpose... I want to phrase this carefully. It felt very deliberate how they didn't say she beat Nyla Rose. There are a couple of instances where they kind of kept going, she came through a really tough battle to become the first champion. And it kind of felt like there was a bit of the sentence missing. That was just, I don't know why, it felt odd. Maybe it's because they wanted to keep the focus on them, but,
Possibly. I didn't really pick much up on that, to be honest, but it's just like...
I pay far too much attention, sorry.
Well, obviously they have to build something up for Riho to obviously become a credible challenger. Because I think the only reason this match came about was because at the All Out Casino Battle Royale,
she didn't get eliminated.
She didn't get eliminated. It was like, all right, you can have a championship match. All right, fine. Well, make your stories as they happen, I suppose.
I do think though that at least that's because that's like another example of something happened. You've been able to make it logically make sense because it was the Black Friday Rampage, I think, where Riho beat Britt Baker because it was kind of like, all right, look, you got eliminated. you get a match against her. If you beat her, you'll get a title match. Like, to me, that makes logical sense. And we had, like, some follow-up tag matches and stuff and whatnot. I really, really like both women. I really, really do. The Jamie Hayter stuff getting a bit oddly confusing, which we may touch on in a second. But that aside, this is the first Britt Baker title defense, despite me really liking both women and what they do, where I wasn't up for it. There was just something missing about it. Something was just not there for me. I don't know what it was, but it was really weird.
Yeah, it's like it. I think the result was never going to be in doubt, to be honest. I think everyone saw Baker retaining from a mile away, to be perfectly honest. And Rio's already Rio has already won the belt as well. Yeah. So it's like it's not unless you. It's like you just see it again. It's like they've taken a situation that's unfortunate that strangely happened during another match, and they've cobbled together a small feud to tie us over until the next challenger, which is absolutely fine. I think my main thing, obviously we've had the TBS tournament, which obviously has had a lot of women's wrestling going on Dynamite and Rampage and all that sort of stuff. But it's like, I don't know if it's me, but it just feels like Britt Baker and the Women's Championship has just kind of been in the background for like the last couple of months.
It's been present.
It's been present. It's been there. We have
but that's it.
We have the odd moment with Britt and Tony Schiavone. But other than that, there's not much really on there, and it's like I like Baker as a champion, and she's an absolute superstar for AEW. It's like she's one of the most popular stars in the entire brand. But I don't know, it just feels like she's had a bit more of a muted presence on Dynamite and Rampage over like the last month and a half.
Yeah, and I think that's partly because of the tournament to help keep the focus on that. Also, I want to say she may still have been getting over a wrist injury.
This might also be the case.
So it may also have been I'll say, conveniently subtle way to be able to, poor choice of phrasing it, but kind of scale back her presence to allow her to heal and keep the focus on the tournament, and then gradually bring it back up. That's just me spitballing some ideas there. But.
Yeah, but it's like the whole Reba and Jamie Hayter stuff. It's like, where is this going? Because it's like, it's getting a bit, to me, it's getting a bit silly now. It's like, I don't, it's like, obviously there's going to be dissension and Jamie Hayter's going to end up leaving the group. It's very clear because Jamie Hayter's
she will challenge for the belt. That's obvious.
Yeah, she was doing lots of various things, even suggesting using the table as well. That Rio ran up and gave her a kick, and the table landed oddly on her foot as well, which I hope wasn't a serious injury or anything, but it just looked
I did like that
weird.
Spot though. That was a cool little spot.
It was a nice little spot. But yeah, it's kind of like, if we're gonna pull the trigger on this sort of dissension and storyline, obviously they look like they're about to start doing it now. So I would not be surprised if Revolution's going to be Baker versus Hayter. I wouldn't be surprised. But it's kind of like, let's get on with this, please. It's just like, I don't know. I don't want to be mean about it. I'm not trying to be mean or trying to be really harsh about this. It's just like, I like Britt Baker as a wrestler. I like Britt Baker as a character. I just want to, I guess I want more in a less kind of disposable way. Because it's like, sometimes it's just like just a random bit of where she just talks to Tony Schiavone for like 3 minutes, and then that's it. It's like, what was it? I think she had a tag match with against the night before on Rampage with Ruby Soho. Well, not with, but against Ruby Soho, because Ruby lost the TPS, and we've got that little random thing happening there. I don't know. I'm trying to bat and point. Basically, I hope now with the tournament over, I hope there's a bit more focus on some of these women's feuds or creating new women's feuds, because we have some potentials. Obviously, with the TBS, we've had the arrival of Mercedes Martinez having issues with Thunder Rosa, so we've already got a story there. Excellent, good. The whole Bunny, Ford, Tay, Anna Jay is done. Let's give them some new feuds, please. After that wicked Rampage match, it's like, hopefully now with the tournament over, there's plenty more opportunities now to actually build a couple more different storylines up that haven't been going on for like 6 to 8 months. And that's just, again, I think that's like the common sort of observation of AEW. It's like, you have great women's wrestlers, can we please have more than one storyline going on, or the occasional additional storyline going on? I don't know. But yeah. I've been going on a little bit about this. So yeah, you take over, Jeremy.
But Ian, you're totally right. And the thing is, it's almost like it's ended up probably being somewhat of a double-edged sword, which people couldn't have predicted. Because the TBS tournament, a women's wrestling tournament being given that much focus over, at least a couple of months at this point. Yeah. Effectively only having one match a week, maybe two tops, for like the better part of a couple of months. It has been fantastic to see, but in a weird way, it's unintentionally kind of strong-held what else could be done in the women's division.
I think we've only had Shida Deeb being like a for the, and
the tag match going. And the tag match you mentioned. Yeah, so it's one of those things where unintentionally it's probably kind of held things back a bit. But like you say, now's the time to kind of hit a reset button. You can change things up, put things in a new direction. You mentioned Thunder Rosa. One would assume she will eventually get a shot against Britt Baker at some point. There's lots of great matchups. And also, they've started the feud with Layla Hirsch and Chris Statlander.
Yep, that one should be good fun.
So yeah, that one's quite promising.
Yeah, so it'll be in the pipeline. So now it's like brand new year. Let's really put this division on the map.
Yeah,
because
I
was just going to say, because I think this roster is really good. They've got some really cool names. Again, there's other potential free agencies that will come in and really strengthen that soon. But yeah, this is kind of like the time to really make a good case for AEW to say, look, we have a great women's division as well. It's there. They just need to put it out there.
Yeah. And I will say it as well. I've just quickly gone on the AEW Twitter just to see if anything's been announced before we get on to previewing what's going on next. They've actually announced that they're going to be doing some dark tapings at Universal this weekend. And Jade Cargill is pretty much front and center on the graphic they've used on Twitter. So she will be wrestling on Dark, kind of following on from what we said a few minutes ago.
Lovely.
So this brings us on to what is coming up on Dynamite tonight, 12th of January at the time of recording. TNT title match, as we mentioned, Sammy Guevara defending against Daniel Garcia. I don't see any reason Sammy would not retain the belt, but stranger things have happened.
Yeah, I think Sammy will retain. I think it's just a sidestep in this whole 2.0 and Garcia against Kingston, Ortiz and Santana. Yeah. But yeah, so it's like I just feel like it's more of a like 2.0 going to War of the Inner Circle. So
yeah. CM Punk and Wardlow. We talked about our thoughts on how that will progress earlier. Powerhouse Hobbs v Dante Martin. One would expect that Dante Martin may somehow get a win on this, but I reckon it's going to be a case of him trying to be, for lack of a better phrase, very flippy-floppy and acrobatic, and Powerhouse Hobbs basically just being a brick wall.
Or a freight train and just smacking him down. You see him do a flip, and then Hobbs just runs into him. It's like, oh no, he's dead.
And then we're probably going to get another great battle between Hikaru Shida and Serena Deeb, because these two have great chemistry, and each match of theirs is really good fun.
Yes, I think they've been doing a nice little feud there. Hopefully this is maybe like the final or the penultimate match. Obviously they're building a lot more of Deeb being incensed that Shida's been beating her. So I sense a Deeb victory tonight, to be honest, just to keep the feud going. So then it's all level, and then maybe we just have a blow-off match very, very soon.
Indeed, and at the time of recording, folks, that is what has been announced for Dynamite. So for all we know, by the time we're done tonight, something else will be announced. Because I'm sure that something will. That's usually how things work.
Pretty much.
So, we now move on to a segment we are affectionately calling Any Other Business.
Or Wrestling Around the World.
That's a far better title for that. I'll accept that.
Now we just need the good old sort of timey-wimey music of Wrestling Round the World. Today, wrestling, grappling, professional wrestling, sports entertainment. It's all one word. I don't know what I'm talking about, but let's carry on.
Tally ho, grapple, ho ho, what?
Chance for me to do it in that accent for like the next episode of BunkaMania when we've got an idea of what we're doing in this segment. We'll just do it in that voice. Have you heard of what's happening with the Rumble? All this stuff's happening. Lovely days.
So, as we were going to close up the show last week when we were live, there was some breaking news occurring. That being a bunch of WWE-related releases, more specifically from the background side of things when it comes to NXT.
Yeah.
We had some people announce while we were on air. Ian, from your perspective, anyone else in particular? I mean, let me phrase this carefully. Everyone who got released, it's a real shame and it sucks.
Yeah.
But anyone from your point of view who stood out to you most of all?
Well, it's essentially majority of the people involved, or the majority of people who were released were core NXT Triple H creative guys. So William Regal's gone, Road Dogg's gone. Samoa Joe has also been released again for the second time in like a year.
If that.
Yeah, I mean, because he was helping out with like the scouting and the coaching side of things. Some of the wrestlers who had transitioned from doing wrestling to coaching, Danny Burch, Timothy Thatcher, there's like they were all kind of Triple H people. They're gone, and it's just basically the way WWE had kind of explained it in an answer query, I think, to Fightful Select. Had basically just said because we are trying to cement what we want to do with 2.0. We are just putting the staff, we're just changing the staff so it's in line with our vision. So it's like, it's sad, but it's not surprising. It really is not, especially when last week's NXT New Year's Evil, you've got Braun Breaker just charging through and kicking a giant X in half. I think the writing was on the wall, to be perfectly honest. And it's sad, but again, it's like, this is the direction WWE want to take it, but that means now people like William Regal and Samoa Joe are available to other promotions and brands after obviously a release clause. I'm not sure what the release clause is like for like staff. If it's an NXT contract, it's 30 days. So basically by February or by the start of February, Joe can start wrestling if he wants to. But maybe it's something different. I don't know. I honestly don't know to my knowledge what the release clause situation is. Obviously, if it's a standard talent, NXT is 30 days, main roster is 90 days. So,
But either way, though, if there's one thing we can say is there's a lot of people out there who can help build the next generation of wrestlers.
Absolutely.
In terms of the future of wrestling, it sucks they've been let go. But in terms of what this could mean in terms of spreading their experience, their knowledge, the world hopefully going to start opening up a bit more than it can do right now. But the independent shows are starting to happen again.
Yeah.
Like this is, I'm trying to be like a glass half full rather than half empty on my turn of phrase here. But hopefully, long term, this is a good thing for the rest of the wrestling world as a whole. Yeah,
I mean, to be perfectly honest, I would be surprised if within the next 3 months we don't see Regal or Joe at another promotion. I mean, Ring of Honor are going for a rebrand. Yep. Go grab Joe again, or even Regal to help out with creative or to help with coaching, stuff like that. There's like a lot of promotions would probably bite their arm off to literally have them in their business. So it's like they and for a point and for a good point, NXT was for a good period of time until AEW started like the be all and end all of like the super indie show. Yeah. It's kind of like they could do no wrong. I mean, they may have the odd misstep, but it's like every takeover there was always something noteworthy to talk about takeovers. There was always the characters and the wrestlers they were creating before the 2.0 mantra started coming in. Again, you had great characters. Even you look at some of the wrestlers who were released last year, like Karrion Kross is like excellent NXT character, destroyed on main roster because it's just not what main roster wanted. And it's just like if they are the people responsible for creating some of those standout ideas and helping create those ideas come to fruition with those wrestlers, imagine what they can do in other promotions, especially promotions that are starting to close the gap on audiences, especially with AEW. It's like they may be a little way off, obviously really trouncing WWE in ratings, but if they really want to get that quality seal of content, if they really want to get that quality seal of we are really passionate about bringing the best and bringing in the best to help our talent be the best, you can do no wrong with bringing people in like Regal. You really can't.
Agreed. Completely. Elsewhere, Yeah, I was going to say, elsewhere, I mentioned at the top of the show, actually, what I was going to say here when it came to Kenta and his injury at the Tokyo Dome. But
yes.
But Ian, I know you had an interesting note. Now, some context, people. Because I'm trying to stay spoiler-free of the New Japan and Noah show that took place, and I'm going to be staying spoiler-free for like the next week until it's on Wrestle Universe and or New Japan World, I've literally not seen any news of wrestling since Friday last week. So I have no idea what's happened, but the only note I have got here is Mickie James. So Ian, what the heck is going on?
So, WWE have done the very surprising thing of announcing 19 of the 30 entrants in the 2022 Royal Rumble match for the women's.
What?
Charlotte Flair came out on SmackDown and went, "Yay, Royal Rumble season's here. Let's look at the amazing people taking part." So we have standard entrants. We have people like Tamina from Raw, Shotzi, Shayna Baszler, Rhea Ripley, Queen Selina, Nikki Ash, Natalia, Naomi, all that stuff. We also got a few surprise Legends returns. So the Bella Twins are in the Rumble. They are back.
Sure.
Kelly, Lita, Michelle McCool. Who else have we got down here? Summer Rae. The big name.
Summer Rae?
Summer Rae.
That's cool.
Yep. But the surprising thing about all of this is Mickie James is in the Rumble. The weirder thing is...
Isn't she with Impact?
Here's the extra bit. They referenced her on air as the Impact Knockouts champion.
What?
Yeah. So, and straight after this broke, or appeared on SmackDown, Impact said, yep, WWE and Mickie James worked out an agreement. We're happy for her to go and take part in the Rumble. And if she wants to take the belt, she's more than welcome to. And WWE, and it's like Pat McAfee referred to her as Impact Impact Knockout Champion as well. So it's like, what's going on? it's like for the first time in like forever, WWE's pretended other companies haven't exist, but now they've acknowledged like Impact, and it's really it's kind of blown a few people's minds. But I think the bottom line of this is basically, we don't have enough entrants for the Rumble. Gee, wonder why.
It's almost like you've just released most of your blooming roster.
Yeah. So the logic sense to me makes me. I was reading a story. I think John Laurinaitis called up Mickie James to say, "Hey, would you want to be in the Rumble?" And she said, "Well, I'm with Impact," and he just went, "That's not a problem." It's like, all right, fine. I mean, I can't see Mickie James winning the Rumble. I mean, it's unless the forbidden door between WWE and other companies is about to suddenly blow off the hinges.
How many years did a select group of people really want to see WWE versus TNA? And eventually, we're effectively going to get that in the year 2022 in the Royal Rumble.
I don't know. I don't know. But it's like I mean, on one side, it's actually quite cool. They've said that and kind of
super
referenced
cool.
Impact. It's really cool. And considering the whole shenanigans that happened with Mickie James' release, obviously they're trying to. I think part of me is also thinking they're trying to make right by her. So obviously, actually treating her with the respect that she's actually due. So maybe that's part of it. So basically, it's like, I'll take part, but please, you've got to obviously say that I'm Impact Champion. Give my name some respect in that sense, and I kind of get that. Whether or not this leads to anything remains to be seen. I think some people are kind of going, oh, they could actually bring in Impact stars into it, so Impact stars can actually take part in the Rumble and maybe some WWE. I don't see that happening. I think some fans would really love to see that happening. I think a lot of cooler heads are kind of going, they don't have enough people for the Rumble. This is why.
This isn't a partnership. This isn't
a partnership.
This, for lack of a better phrasing, this isn't what AEW and Impact were kind of doing last year.
But Impact have actually come off the back of that. They've had Hard to Kill, which I think Mickie James and Donna Purrazzo main evented.
Cool.
But apparently, just from Mickie James being announced for the Rumble, they had some extra business on pay-per-view buys for Hard to Kill.
Amazing, brilliant.
So if this is like the start of like a gentle sort of idea of say, hey, other companies were open, WWE open to working with other companies. Great. Obviously, knowing WWE's practices, I'll believe it when I see it. To be perfectly honest.
It's almost that thing of what's the penny drop going to be, or where's the butt going to come in?
Where's the butt? I mean, I was reading stories on the news sites as well this week that WWE were talking to AEW about certain talent that are on the AEW roster that they're doing documentary work for and stuff like that. So again, it's like, I think in the right context, companies can talk to one another and sort of say, hey, can we do this, or can we just borrow someone, or so forth? Because I think they have worked. It's like Impact and WWE kind of worked something out for like Christian 1 year. I can't remember what it was.
Christian was under WWE contract, and he came out to introduce someone to the TNA Hall of Fame at Bound for Glory, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. I think they kind of tried to work something out just to make sure that was all hunky dory.
But also as well, I think like even on some WWE like programming on the network, there's just been outright like footage from Impact.
Well, I think
the whole Kurt Angle stuff, like there's been AJ Styles, loads of stuff's been on there referencing it. Yeah,
especially with AJ Styles and Kurt Angle, if they've had any documentary stuff, they've been talking to like Dixie Carter and stuff like that. So it's like
Jeff Hardy once upon a time.
Yeah, it's like they are open to going to talk to people and actually getting people involved. Obviously, I think to a degree, it'll be like you can have a nice spotlight, but you're not taking away from the WWE product. That's what I sense. That's what I generally sense.
Yeah, it's really cool that this is happening. Like I say, it's what's the but if there is going to be one? What's that going to be? The other thing as well is it also just seems really, what's the word? It almost feels hypocritical. Given, how many flipping releases they've done recently. And it's like...
Yeah.
There is an air of there being someone being incredibly hypocritical somewhere about this. I mean, that might also even be the wrong word to use, but it's... You know what I mean? Either way, it's cool it's happening. And I'm happy for Impact. And I know we've been talking recently, we do want to try and, engage in some other wrestling-related things. So maybe at some point... We actually mentioned Impact, I think, on the last show we recorded before the Christmas break. At some point we are going to check out Impact and some other stuff that's going on as well. So that will definitely be on our list.
I mean, if you really want to have like a penny drop moment, there's also the story today of Major League Wrestling suing WWE.
Wait, what? Why?
MLW media has served papers to WWE because it alleges WWE's ongoing attempts to undermine competition and monopolise the professional wrestling market by interfering with MLW's contracts and business prospects. So apparently there was basically some point last year, I think MLW was supposed to have a streaming deal announced with an online thing. I think it was Fox owned Tubi.
You've just said the word Fox, so I can already imagine what this is going to be.
Yeah. But apparently, a WWE executive warned the owners of that brand to say, hey, Vince isn't happy about this. You might not want to go ahead with this in this sort of way. And then, like, the next day, the deal's off. All that sort of stuff. And that was about, just checking what year this was. I think it was either last year or early 2021. Early 2021. So yeah, I mean, we'll see how that one goes. It's like, it's kind of like a weird sort of, well, it's like if WWE is now starting to openly happily work. It's like, again, I think a couple of years ago, maybe many years ago, when obviously the Vince McMahon mantra was, I want to destroy every other wrestling promotion around me, in that sort of way, because obviously how we took out the territory system. Yeah, but I don't know. It's a weird situation. It's like, it's just one of those, huh? It's like, I don't know.
I've got so many thoughts and feelings. First of all, quite frankly, if Fox owned Tubi, why should Vince McMahon's opinion matter, given that they've paid for WWE to be on their network?
Yeah.
And from what I don't live in the US, obviously, but I don't think that any of WWE's programming is on any online media for Fox. There's like a WWE on Fox Twitter account, if I remember correctly, but there's no specifically like SmackDown replays on Fox or something, because it's all on Hulu or whatever. But anyway, the other thing as well is like, this is WWE who have their own network that have ICW from Scotland and WXW from Germany new shows appearing on the network fairly regularly. Talk about hypocritical. Like.
Sorry, I am listening for our viewers. I'm still focusing. I'm just trying to find more information because I think there's been some follow-up stuff as well about this as well.
No, that's cool. If you see it, just feel free to jump in. But either way, it is a very interesting story this is broken. If it's true, it will be very interesting to see what the outcome of this is.
It's an antitrust lawsuit, is what they filed.
Yeah. Yeah, so it'll be very interesting to see what the ultimate outcome is of this. And you know what? It's just... someone will say it's just business. The other party will go, yeah, it was going to be business, wasn't it? And then you took it away. So...
Yeah.
Ain't wrestling weird and dumb?
Right. So basically, just to clarify this. So this is from Fightful, I believe. Mm-hmm. A source close to Fox that Fightful spoke with indicated WWE did not respond favourably to the deal, which was to be announced immediately after WWE was made aware. As a result, the future of that third-party deal was in question. So, yeah. So basically, WWE found out and went, "Oi," is what they're alleging.
Yeah, it's just... I mean, without labouring this too much, 'cause we'll be here all night otherwise.
Yeah.
It's just that part of me that's like, why would WWE's opinion matter? In the sense that they're already on Fox. They've already got money from Fox, so...
I have a bit more just to clarify this a little bit more. As described in the complaint, WWE pressured third parties to abandon contracts and prospective relationships with MLW. WWE's misconduct included disrupting every level of MLW's business, including a major streaming deal for the promotion, which would have transformative for the company. MLW also alleged that in the complaint that in early 2021, after MLW announced that it was in talks with Vice TV to air MLW programming on Vice TV, a then WWE executive warned Vice TV that that Vince McMahon was pissed that Vice TV was airing MLW programs and that Vice TV should stop working with MLW. The Vice TV executive responded that WWE's conduct was illegal and was an antitrust violation, with the WWE executive responding that she could not control McMahon.
I don't know why, but I want to say there was some talk ages ago of MLW maybe working with Vice. I don't know why. I vaguely remember that being said yonks ago, but also, even more amusing that they've got an issue with MLW, but they seemingly don't have issue with Vice producing documentaries like Dark Side of the Ring.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I mean, and again, it's like just relating to that line of she could not control McMahon, or the executive in question could not control McMahon. It's like, it might be Vince McMahon just having one of his stupid, or not stupid, but his more egotistical, angry rant of "I want this," and he's not going to take no for an answer.
Yeah, he is above the law, effectively.
Yeah. So it's like, we'll see what happens with this.
Exactly.
Maybe something happens. It's just it's a court thing now. It's like I'm just sort of picking up what I can find on the story.
No, I wasn't aware of this. So you know what? I'm sure by the time we next do a show, there may be some more info we can elaborate on as or if needed, if there's any update.
But in positive sort of WWE roster news, Corey Graves has been cleared for an in-ring return.
Freaking amazing.
Yes.
I remember back in October 2005, he made his UK debut on the 1PW show under the name Sterling James Keenan, and became quite a member of the roster. Like, he kind of became a big darling to the 1PW crowd, and I went to many of their shows. Yeah. And it was always just such a cool guy, to me anyway. I don't know if other people's experience, but it was always just a cool guy, fun stuff, really, really cool. And when he got signed, I was really happy for him. I also did wonder, after I once conducted an interview with him, where did he get his surname from? Just saying. Just speculating. But then when he had to effectively retire from in-ring competition, it was pretty sad, just knowing all the memories that I'd seen him create. And then to hear this news now, that's a really cool thing. That's really cool. Whether he ultimately will get back in the ring full-time is another question entirely.
So, I've got some more stuff from Fightful here. Fightful's always a great place to
in reference to Corey Graves or
yeah,
sorry.
into Corey Graves. So, he had a major status shift over the last year. According to sources, he was actually cleared by WWE at some point in 2020. Though the company has not confirmed that. It's largely based on discussions behind the scenes. Graves briefly won the 24/7 championship in 2020, despite previously being on a strict internal no-contact list that the company keeps. He's no longer on that list, apparently. That is what sources are suggesting.
Oh, there we go.
So, you never know. Surprise return at the Rumble.
You know what? It would be logical, wouldn't it? That's a pretty good place to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think on that note, I think we're going to start to wrap up now, everybody. It's been a wonderful time tonight. I mentioned our next show. I believe, Ian, we will not be here this coming Wednesday, but we're going to be returning. Our plan is to return, as he looks at a calendar, on Wednesday the 26th of January, obviously, just to put on there, 2022. We'll be talking, no doubt, a bunch of AEW, bunch of WWE. More specifically, that's Rumble Week, isn't it?
That is Rumble Week. It's also AEW Beach Break Week.
Wait, when did they announce Beach Break? What?
It kind of got announced under the radar. It's going to be happening across the Wednesday 26th January episode of Dynamite and the 28th of January episode of Rampage.
It's a long beach party, that.
It's beach party going on forever, Jeremy. Forever, 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 forever.
So we will be talking about what's happened in between then, and also be previewing the Royal Rumble. I was going to say based on what we know, but given that we now know most of the competitors in the Women's Rumble, we may actually know far more than we think by that point.
I should have added as well, Charlotte Flair's in the Rumble. She's the champion. She's a SmackDown champion. She's in the Rumble.
I'm not even going to ask.
Again, I mean, I don't see Flair winning, to be perfectly honest. I don't think Flair's going to win it. So it's just one of those, we'll do a Brock situation. It's like, but it doesn't make any sense this time around. The Brock situation worked out actually quite perfectly in the storytelling sense for Drew McIntyre. But I don't know. We'll touch on that when we get to the actual Rumble.
Yeah, rather than having some dead air at me trying to get over that.
It's like, but why? But also, just to confirm as well, speaking of Rumble, Johnny Knoxville has been officially entered into the Rumble. He is confirmed. He qualified by simply turning up on SmackDown, and when Sami Zayn didn't see him, he just put him over the top rope. And the Jackass music played, he ran around, and he left. That's how you qualify for a Royal Rumble. You have to throw someone off a top rope, and you're there.
Thank you for joining us live on Twitch tonight, everybody. If you've enjoyed the show, please hit the follow button. And if you feel so inclined, please do subscribe as well. And if you've been watching on the YouTube archive, why not give us a thumbs up? And if you feel so inclined on there, hit that subscribe button. If you've been listening to the audio-only version, we would love to hear from you. You can reach out to us via Twitter at BunkaZillaUK. And of course, you can also drop us an email. You can do that on BunkaMania at bunkazilla.co.uk. And if you're someone who's still in a meta-like verse in the world of Facebook, make sure you check out the Stomping Grounds, that being the BunkaZilla page on Facebook, and you can have some fun interactions in there as well. Mr. Dekker-san, Ian of Boulton, any other closing thoughts you would like to have before we conclude proceedings for today?
No, I think we're all good for today. It's been a lovely, nice little AEW chat and a little bit of side other wrestling chat. I really feel like trying to get like a little ident now for wrestling round the world.
Today, in the world of pro wrestling, we travel the world to Japan.
It's the Royal Rumble, where 30 chaps get thrown over the top rope. The last one standing gets a title shot. Whether or not they win it is a completely different ballgame.
Would it be 30 chaps and chapesses?
Well, there'll be 30 ladies. If you're
chapesses. What the heck? It's been a long week.
It has been a long week. There's been lots of wrestling, Jeremy. And the wrestling's not stopping.
So
the wrestling's going to go on forever.
It's going to go on forever for me because I've got so much Japanese wrestling to catch up on. Eventually, I'll see that New Japan and Noah show. I will say, as a fun anecdote, I'll be watching a show from, I think it's DDT in Japan. I'm watching that on Wrestle Universe. There is a show that occurred in the last week. Remember last week I closed out the show by telling you that Chris Brooks wrestled someone as a giant cat?
Yes.
The follow-up to that was, in DDT, there's no other easy way to phrase this. There is effectively a stuffed blow-up doll that is a character by the name of Yoshihiko. And Yoshihiko has had some legendary matches against people like Kota Ibushi. Just saying. Chris Brooks took on Yoshihiko in a singles match. I cannot wait to see this.
Oh no. Oh dear.
And then, of course, there's a bunch of pro wrestling Noah stuff in general going on, so there's loads of stuff going on. At some point, I'll get to talk more in-depth about Japanese wrestling on here. It will happen. But until then, everybody, from myself, Jeremy Graves, from him, the Dekker Dane, Mr. Iain Boulton, you have been watching BunkaMania here on Bunkerzilla UK. Thank you very much for joining us, and talk to you soon.